This week in The Cool Stuff, I met up with visual artist and winner of the Standard Bank Artist of the Year, Ashran Addams. He took me on his journey of how he discovered his authentic self through art. We started by chatting about his award-winning exhibition, When the Dust Settles.
I think it's that paradigm shift for me. It's a matter of perspective. That when dust settles, meaning when time has passed, when you've gained a better perspective on what had taken place, and that shift in perspective can make so much of a difference. You know? So that's what I was trying to point to.
Now your work has also been exhibited overseas. You've been in some really big galleries. Take me to where your art has taken you and how it has influenced you and how people have received your work.
I've had big successes in Europe, certain parts of Europe specifically. I would say I've spent a lot of time in Switzerland and in the Netherlands. In Italy, I've had quite a few successes and experiences. And also in New York. I've been to New York twice this year for the Armory show, where we got the prize for the best booth, which I was really chuffed about.
Congratulations, that must have been amazing.
It is quite amazing.
And of course you are now the Young Standard Bank Artist for 2018, another accolade. Yeah. What does it feel like, Ashran?
It's an amazing feeling. It's quite a feeling of achievement because I believe for every young South African artist, this is the award to win. This is the most important award because I think it has a lot to do with how the award is presented. I have no idea that I'm even in the running. There's no application. So basically your name goes on the list and you are watched over a long period of time. And so it means there's an in-depth look at what you are trying to contribute as an artist.
And of course, I mean, you explore in your work the concept of multiple identities. Yes. How does that express itself in your work?
I was forced into this line of inquiry because of this multiple hybrid identity where, you know, I was Muslim, I was born Muslim, my father was born Muslim, my mom was born Christian. Long story short, we ended up as kids being raised by my mom's parents who were Christian. So these two little Muslim boys being raised by Christian grandparents. But it was very confusing because I didn't belong to either. I wasn't part of the Islamic community at all. I couldn't relate. I couldn't relate to the domestic Muslim domestic environments, you know. But I was also not Christian, and that was also very clear. And then a little bit older, I started realizing that I am queer, and that just doesn't sit well with Islam, you know. And so that again, that conflict that arose, I think around 25th, 26th years of age, I was introduced to Sufism, the Tasawwuf, as we call it, the mysticism within Islam. And that put me on this falling in love process. I loved what I was learning and how the shift of paradigm within myself and viewing the world differently and how that changed me. But then I was still queer and it remained in conflict. So yeah, that had showed up quite strongly earlier on. I don't think it has that strong of a presence in this exhibition, my sexuality. There's no overt reference to that. But it's just a thread that keeps on going, you know, throughout. But I was also not Christian, and that was also very clear. So I feel like I was forced into inquiring and really understanding what is going on with me, how have I been conditioned, and what was good about that conditioning, and what was bad, and what I needed to undo and unravel.
What is the point that you want to make through your art and through where you get your materials about how you see yourself?
With the material specifically, I chose to look at Bonteheuwel and Khayelitsha as two spaces because I grew up in Bonteheuwel and I spent a lot of my time in Khayelitsha. And I think during my 5 years in Khayelitsha, I was able to undo a lot of the nonsense, you know, because it's only through ignorance really that it remains so powerful. And so that was a beautiful experience for me. And in this exhibition, I think the most basic point I was trying to make was you could never identify which comes from which. You know, because there's that shared lived experience which is bigger than the differences, but then the differences are so focused on, and you know, that strategy of divide and conquer was so successful.
Just take us through what the facets are of When Dust Settles.
So for this, I thought I would love to take it a step further and have a conversation about the Cape Flats and what concerns me about that situation there. And you know, I tried to create this immersive environment where you are surrounded by this vinyl, and then inserting these sculptures. So the sculptures, the first choice I made was to use the material. It is actually the garden fencing, you know, those wire fencing that's quite low down.
Yes.
And so we just wrapped it up in this white cotton, natural material. And the idea there was that the symbol of this border, just like we border off our little spaces. And in the past, I did a body of work also around the Rorschach inkblots, thinking and looking at the underlying mental structures and how it shows itself through projecting onto other people. And so the work that we have at the back is actually continues onto that Rorschach work. So instead of using the ink blots in its original form, here I took, I traced out a pathway that had been created in someone's home, and we drew out the way the pattern had worn out. That the vinyl is actually on the other side of the space where I took that drawing from, and then we mirror imaged it and then filled in the blank spaces. And I think what I was trying to get to with that work and this gesture of filling in the space is really also just saying, well, the way our minds work, we automatically fill in the blank spaces.
That was, of course, the incredible Ashran Addams, the 2018 Standard Bank Visual Artist of the Year winner, hailing from Bonteheuwel, from the Cape Flats. It was an incredible experience for me. Very, very moving. Yeah. We've got a very big political week ahead of us. Yeah. What do you think is going to be the big news?
If Karen Moore is right, there's going to be a blank space to fill at the NPA pretty soon. So her thinking, and she's very well informed, as we know, is Karen, is that the Constitutional Court will find that Ashran Addams' appointment was wrongly done, but that he is not incompetent.
Yes. So he's not necessarily going to leave the institution.
But it'll be enough for Cyril to say, well, I'm sorry, you know, I've got to choose somebody properly, and it's not going to be you.
Yeah.
And it'll probably be Vusi Pikoli. And it'll basically, you know, he might, and if he has the courage and the space to appoint Glenys Breitenbach as his deputy, he'll do that too, and he'll be able to make back up some ground that he's lost in the last few days with investors and, you know, the people he depends on to keep the economy going.
Absolutely, and of course, it is the kind of institutions that are going to be built under the presidency of Cyril Ramaphosa that will determine the extent to which democracy is in fact going to be deepened. Well, now that you've had your fix for the week, take care and good night. We'll see you next Sunday.